What's up, people? We're back with another video working on a junky Chevy. We're gonna make a video on how to fix low oil pressure when it's cold, when the engine's cold. This truck is having the issue whenever he cranks it up in the cold. The oil pressure at idle is like 10 psi. It can get pretty low, but then he said when it warms up, when it gets up to operating temperature, the oil pressure goes back to normal. All the research I've done, and I've talked to Mr. Greg, which rides four-wheelers with us, and he's told me before that those O-rings they basically get hard and they shrink, and then when it's cold, that makes the rubber shrink even more. So it's like the oil pump will be sucking air instead of oil, which causes low oil pressure when it's cold. But then when it warms up, that rubber expands and then it seals back up and starts pumping like normal. But anyways, this customer brought me the truck and he needs it done. This is Saturday. He needs it done by tomorrow. So I told him I could do it. So the last video we was working on Bennett's Chevy, ripping the engine out of it. So now we got to work on this one, drop the oil pan and replace that seal. We're gonna get this thing on the lift and get to work. In all the videos we have before of replacing rear main seals on 5.3s, we didn't have a lift back then, and boy oh boy, we didn't know what we was missing out on. Having a lift is life-changing. If you work on vehicles and you don't have a lift, but you like do a lot of stuff underneath them, pulling transmissions, replacing rear main seals, or anything under a vehicle, I don't know how we lived without a lift for so long, but this thing is amazing. And I would say if you're gonna use a lift every day, I would probably go with a better one than what we got, because we just got a Chinese one. We have a video on it, but we got a Chinese one. It's rated for 11,000 pounds, which should be sufficient for pretty much everything. But if I was doing this every single day, which I just about am, but if I was doing it even more, I would definitely say it'd probably be better to get a name brand. But for the price we paid for this thing, is like $4,000 after taxes and shipping. It's pretty good. All right, we're touching. We look good there. Look good there. Right there. I might have to let off and extend that one out a little bit. And always make sure that you got all four of your feet properly on the frame before you start lifting. Because that's the last thing I want to do, is tear up a customer's vehicle by not paying enough attention while using the lift. I think, no, that's a good height. I like that, actually. We're gonna ease it down on the locks. I always set it down on those locks before I start working on them, because if you don't have to worry about if a hydraulic line blew or a cylinder broke, you don't have to worry about if any of that broke, it falling. But also, we use always, unless I'm working on a little car that weighs 2,500 pounds, I always put 4 of these 2-ton stands under each corner of the truck, always, because I just like having the extra safety. It probably isn't necessary, but for one, it does stable the vehicle a little more, and secondly, if the lift for some reason broke, I guarantee you 4 of these 2-ton lifts or jack stands would hold the truck up. So I always use these, always. It's just a safety precaution. For one, I don't want to get killed by a vehicle falling on me, and 2, I don't want to ever drop somebody's vehicle. That would be terrible. So I'm going to get these under there, and then we'll get a game plan together. Got all the jack stands under, one under the front. Got it up under this heavy mount for the front bumper, which attaches straight to the frame. And then at the back, I like to put them up on the hitch mount. This is all the hitch brackets. So, I mean, if it'll hold a trailer on there, it'll definitely hold the truck up. So, that's those. I highly recommend it. I would never work on a truck without these under it, ever. You wouldn't get me to do it. A little car that weighs 2,500 pounds, with this lift being rated for 11,000 pounds, I'm not scared whatsoever of it breaking. So I don't normally use the jack stands under a little car. But a truck, they're so long. Like, this truck is so long. This truck's probably 20 feet long. Maybe a little shy of that. But on this lift, when you get it up there, if you don't have those jack stands, it can kind of rock back and forth. And it's not a good feeling being under it. But with all these jack stands, and I'll shut up about them, but with these jack stands, with just a little bit of pressure on each one, like I'm not jacking it up, I'm just getting them firmly up against there. I could do pull-ups on this truck, and it's not shaking. Look, I can just get over here, grab on the front bumper, do a bunch of chin-ups. Truck doesn't shake. So, you can be up under there, yanking on some bolts, trying to get them loose, and the truck's not going to be shaking all around. Just highly recommend it. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. So, I'll shut up about that. Step 1. Take it apart. Step 2. Take it apart. So, step 1, take these skid plates off. Probably going to find lots of mud. Love mud. Dirt. As you can tell, these meaty tires. The fella that owns this thing, he goes hunting, so I guess he has to drive through the mud a lot to get wherever he's going hunting. So, it's pretty nasty, but thankfully he cleaned it a little bit before he brought it. So we're going to take this front cross member loose, skid plate, this front plate just so we'll be able to see stuff better. And then, you know what? I think it'd be a complete waste of time to drop that front diff. Yeah, 100%. So we don't have to drop the front diff. All we got to do is take some bolts out, I think. Well, as long as we can drop the oil pan far enough to get it out without the transmission interfering. It's going to be a trial and error thing. I guess we'll start with just taking the cross member loose and all that, and then we'll figure it out. And the reason I don't know for sure is because I've never actually pulled the oil pan off of a Yeah, I have. I have done this once. The video I have up, I took the oil pan off. Let me know if I'm going to go back and watch that video right now. That was a 4-wheel drive truck. The other 2 that I've done were 2-wheel drive trucks, so there was no front differential. Let me go back and watch that video, and I'm going to see if we had to Well, wait, the transmission was out of the truck because we were doing a rear main seal. This thing got a rear main seal leak, but it doesn't look bad. He just wants the oil pressure fixed, so we're going to fix the oil pressure issue because we're not going to pull this transmission. We didn't want to pull the transmission. Alright, I'm going to go watch that video real quick. Be right back. Alright, went back and watched the video. It's actually a pretty good video. You should go watch it. And that's before we have a lift. But it does look like we have to take the front diff out, because on that video, we took the front diff out. And looking at it again, there's no way we'll be able to drop the back of the pan to clear the bell housing before the pan hits the diff up there. So we're going to go ahead and start off taking all this off. Take the drive shaft loose and just drop the whole front diff. So we'll get that right now. Alright, I got a question, people, which is kind of hard to see now. But that oil looks like it's got a bunch of, like, air bubbles coming out of it. I think that's what it is air bubbles. Tell me if that looks like air bubbles. To me, it looks like air bubbles. But anyways, if that is air bubbles, I wonder if since the O-ring is doing that, like when it's sucking air, it's just pumping that oil full of air bubbles. So then I wonder if the oil kind of gets foamy. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but just a question. Alright, I've got the front diff unbolted, and this is a steering gearbox truck instead of rack and pinion, so it's got the tie rod right here, and this mount right here, and this mount right here just gets hung up. That it dropped down probably 2.5, 3 inches, and it's not going to come out without taking this out, and I don't really want to do that. So I think I'm going to just take all the bolts out of the oil pan, because that might actually give me enough clearance to be able to drop the pan out of there. So I'm going to try that. If that doesn't work, I'm going to have to take the tie rod loose right here and then just swing it out of the way and drop the whole front diff. But we're going to try that real quick, because then we wouldn't have to pick this thing back up in there and then all that stuff. So let's try that. Alright, I've got all the bolts out of the oil pan, so now set this tray on the ground to catch some oil drops. Yep, we're gonna kind of pull down on it and see if it comes loose. Make sure I got all bolts out of it. Nope, I did miss one. And that's why you don't immediately start prying on it. I missed one, but this wire harness was hiding from me. What? Is that thing attached? There's a little plastic cover right here. Is it bolted? Yep. Looks like a 10mm bolt. Alright. These wires up here don't have hardly any slack. Look at that. We've got it. We've got it. Sweet. Got the oil pan off. And we didn't have to completely drop the front diff. Here we are. Got the oil pan off. Don't look too bad for 250,000 miles, something like that. Well over 200,000 miles. Sweet. Alright, well, let's get that pickup tube out real quick. That way we can actually solve the issue. Alright, to take the oil pickup tube, this is your oil pickup tube right here. And it's got that nut right there that holds it on. It's got one more. I'm dripping oil on me. It's got one more right here. And then right up in there, let me try and get the flashlight up there. Right up there, that bolt where that tube is, that one 10mm bolt right there, and then the pickup tube will come out. So I'll pull that out real quick. Alright, just one nut here. And these are 13mm. That's inside, and then that one 10mm, and this thing will be out of there. There we go. Pickup tube is out. Here it is, out of the truck, oil pickup tube, and it's this O-ring right here that causes the issues. Which I can already tell this thing it's just flattened on the outside. It's not even rounded like an O-ring anymore. It's just like flat, and it is hard. Look, it just broke. It doesn't even, trying to slip it off of there, it just snapped instead of stretching. So that O-ring right there is no good whatsoever. So what happens, if you didn't understand it already, what happens is this O-ring goes on there, and this slides directly into the oil pump. And when it's cold, the rubber kind of shrinks up. So if it sits all night and it's cold, that rubber shrinks up, and then when you start the truck up in the morning, it's still cold, and the oil pump instead of sucking the oil all the way up through this tube, it starts sucking air around this O-ring, which sucking air is not good at all, and it can't build oil pressure if the oil is full of air. So all you got to do is replace this $2 O-ring, slap it back in there, and that way the O-ring will always be sealed whether it's hot or cold, and it'll be good to go. Oh, and the reason once it warms up it starts having good oil pressure again is because this O-ring stuff expands when it gets hot. So this O-ring expands when the oil gets hot, and then it seals up and it has normal oil pressure. But we're gonna change that O-ring out, probably clean this pickup tube off, clean the oil pan out, and which the oil pan's not bad at all for a truck this old and this many miles. That's not bad at all. But we're gonna clean the pickup tube off and that off real quick, and then we will show you putting it back together. Alright, we've got the oil pan cleaned up pretty good. Down there it had a good bit of dirt in it. We cleaned all that out. And these things, the inside of them are super rough, so it's pretty much impossible to actually get them perfectly clean. But I got everything that could possibly flake off. Got all that cleaned off. Looking good. I gotta put this cover back on. But the oil pan gasket is riveted to the oil pan right here and right here. So what we're gonna do is take probably a 1/4 inch drill bit on a drill and just drill the head of that rivet off so we can take the oil pan gasket off, and I'll show you that right here. Alright, so we got our drill bit. It'll just center up with that rivet right there. There we go. Got the head of that rivet off. See, it popped loose. Then we'll do the same thing with this bottom one. There we go. Drilled the head off of both of those, so now the oil pan gasket comes right off. Comes right off. And then we can just, now that the head is off the rivets, they stick through the oil pan gasket, we'll just grab them with pliers and pull them out. Alright, we've got all this stuff cleaned up. We got the new O-ring right here, and here's the old one. But look at the width of it, how much fatter this one is. That's what this one looked like originally. So this one is going to seal perfectly. We'll just slide it on there, and it goes back on just like it came off. But we'll put some oil on that before we slide it in the oil pump. But I've got to look up torque specs real quick for all this, and I'll be right back. Now we're just going to take this feed tube, put it right back up in there, and without knocking the camera off, hopefully, and just gently work that thing into the oil pump. There we go. There we go. I'm going to take that bolt, get it started by hand. Oh my gosh. Mark, what? I can't even get this thing right. I got it straight. Trying to get this one so this barrel can come out. Alright, so this bolt right here torques to 106 inch-pounds.
I didn't want to fall tonight. That's what I would have done if I listened to it. So I went to Trader Joe's and picked up 12 bags.
There we go.
The equivalent of,
Got that bolt tight. Now, just got both the nuts that we took off, both torqued to 18 foot-pounds. So we'll do that real quick. Alright, we got the oil pan cleaned up, got the new gasket, out of the package on here. This is a GM gasket, and you gotta use silicone, and it doesn't have to be AC Delco silicone, but you gotta use silicone where the rear cover joints right there. You gotta put your little dab there, right there, and the front as well, where the front cover. 4 little dabs of silicone in all 4 corners, just to make sure it gets sealed up good. So I'm gonna put that on there real quick, and then we can slide the pan up in there into place. All right, now I got my bolts, and we're gonna go ahead and ease this thing up into place very gently. Try not to knock any dirt in here. There we go. There we go. There it goes. All right, we got all the bolts run down with the impact. They're just touching. So now we're gonna go through with the torque wrench, 18 foot-pounds on all of them, but the back two. The back two are 106 inch-pounds, I believe. Let me verify that real quick. Yeah. Those 2 rear bolts are 106 inch-pounds. So we're going to torque those real quick, and then we're going to get everything buttoned back up. You're a buzzkill. Alright, we got everything back together up under here. All nice and tight. And again, we torqued all the bolts on the oil pan to 18 foot-pounds, except for the 2 back ones. They're 106 inch-pounds. Got everything else put on. Got the new oil filter put on while it's in the sky. Made sure the oil plug was tight. So now we're gonna lower it, put some oil in it, and see what happens. Putting some oil in it now, folks. Just put all of it there. What you want to do is fill it up till it's about right there. Oh, okay. Here, set that in the bucket with funnels, please. Alright, got that full. Got 6 quarts of oil in it. Time to crank it up and see how she does. Alright, here we go in the truck. See what happens. Look at that.
Does that have better oil pressure?
40
now?
psi.
Oh, wow.
40.
Before it was below. What did it
That's
have?
probably
20?
about 45. Between 45 and 50 on a cold
10
startup.
Or 15, whatever. Before.
There we go. There we go. Before, it was less than 20 at idle on a cold start. So that right there, if your truck's having this issue, if your truck is having this issue, more than likely that's the problem. If it's got low oil pressure when it's cold, but then when it warms up it's normal, that O-ring's probably your issue. So that's it for this video. If it helped anyone, please leave a like and maybe even subscribe if you want to. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and we'll see y'all in the next video.